In the middle of a brutal snowstorm, a 10-year-old boy in a wheelchair pushed himself down an empty, freezing street, his broken arm shaking, his breath turning to ice. He wasn't running away. He was trying to save his grandmother before time ran out. With nothing but an old truck key in his hand, he reached a lonely gas station on the edge of a deserted mountain town. And when a massive biker on a Harley pulled up and saw that key, he froze, because he recognized it. He knew the boy's family, and what happened next would turn that deadly winter night into a miracle the entire town would remember forever. The city in Colorado was cold and quiet that winter. Snow covered the streets, the rooftops, and the sidewalks in thick white layers. The sky was gray, and the sun was hidden behind heavy clouds. The air was sharp and freezing, and every time someone opened a door, a cold wind rushed inside. Cars moved slowly on the icy roads, and people walked quickly, keeping their hands inside their pockets. It was the kind of day where most people stayed indoors unless they absolutely had to go outside. Near the edge of the city, a hospital stood on a small hill. It was a large building with tall windows and long hallways. The front entrance had salt spread across the ground to keep it from freezing over. Inside, the hospital was warm, but the air felt tense. Nurses walked quickly from room to room, and the sound of machines and low voices filled the halls. In one of the waiting areas sat a boy named Liam. Liam was 10 years old. His dark brown hair was a little messy, like he had been running his fingers through it too many times. His eyes were gray mixed with green, and they looked tired. His right arm was in a white cast that went from just below his shoulder to past his wrist. A blue sling held the arm close to his chest, so it would not move. Liam sat in a wheelchair because his legs sometimes shook when he tried to stand, especially since the accident that injured him. He wore a thick winter coat that was too big for him, and his feet were covered in old sneakers with worn-out soles. He kept his left hand on the armrest of the wheelchair, gripping it tightly. He was nervous, scared, and tired, but he tried to stay calm. Liam had been brought to the hospital earlier that day because his grandmother had collapsed in their home. His grandmother's name was Margaret, but everyone called her Maggie. She was in her late 60s. Her hair was mostly white now, tied back into a small bun. She had wrinkles on her face, but they came from years of smiling, working, and taking care of others. She was thin and moved slowly, but she always tried to stay strong for Liam. Since his parents died in a car accident a year and a half earlier, Maggie had been the only family Liam had left. She worked 2 different jobs to pay their bills and to take care of him. She cooked for him, helped him with his homework, and took him to his doctor appointments after the accident. She always told him everything would be okay, even when she looked exhausted. But recently, she had been coughing more and getting tired easily. Sometimes she had to stop halfway up the stairs because her chest hurt. Liam noticed these things, but she always said, "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired." 2 nights ago, while Liam was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, he heard a dish fall. When he turned around, he saw Maggie collapse onto the floor. Liam's wheelchair screeched as he pushed himself toward her. She lay on her side, gasping for air, one hand pressed against her chest. Her face was pale, and her lips were turning blue. Liam panicked, but he forced himself to grab the phone and dial 911. His voice shook as he gave their address. The paramedics arrived quickly, placed Maggie on a stretcher, and rushed her to the hospital. Now, Liam waited alone in the hallway. Nurses walked by, giving him small, encouraging smiles. One nurse, named Kelly, had brought him a blanket earlier. She was in her 30s, with dark hair tied in a ponytail and a calm but tired expression. She asked him questions about Maggie, what medications she took, how long she had been sick, whether she had any other family. Liam answered as best he could. Several hours passed. Liam stared at the floor tiles, the chairs, and the clock on the wall. Every few minutes he hoped someone would tell him something. The hospital felt too big and too busy for a boy sitting alone in a wheelchair. Finally, a man in a white coat appeared at the end of the hallway. He walked toward Liam with steady steps. He looked like a doctor in his 40s. His name tag read, Dr. Harris. His light brown hair had a little gray around the sides, and his eyes looked serious but kind. He carried a folder in one hand. He stopped in front of Liam and sat down so he wasn't towering over him. "Liam?" he asked. Liam nodded. "I'm Dr. Harris. I've been taking care of your grandmother since she arrived." Liam's stomach tightened. He swallowed hard. "Is she okay?" he asked quietly. Dr. Harris took a moment before answering. "Your grandmother is very sick," he said. "Her heart is very weak, and her lungs are not working well. It seems this has been developing for a while, and today it suddenly became much worse." Liam gripped the wheelchair armrest harder. "We were able to stabilize her for now," Dr. Harris continued. "That means she is not getting worse at this moment, but she needs special treatment, medicine, and close monitoring. She needs care in the intensive care unit, where nurses and doctors can watch her closely." "For how long?" Liam asked. "It depends," the doctor said, "but the treatment is necessary if she is going to recover." He paused, then looked Liam straight in the eyes. "There is something else I need to tell you." Liam felt his chest tighten. "What is it?" "The treatment she needs is expensive," Dr. Harris said. "Her insurance does not cover everything. There are also unpaid medical bills from previous visits." Liam's heart sank. "What happens if we can't pay?" Dr. Harris lowered his voice. "We will still take care of her the best we can in the emergency department, but without the full treatment in the intensive care unit, her chances of surviving are much lower." Liam blinked hard. His head felt light. "But she could die?" he whispered. The doctor nodded slowly. "Yes. If we do not begin the treatment soon, she might not make it through the night." The hallway suddenly felt too quiet. Liam stared at the floor, trying to understand everything at once. His grandmother, the only person he had left, might die if he didn't find a way to pay. He had no money, no family to call, no one else who could help. "Is there anyone you can contact?" Dr. Harris asked gently. "A family member or friend of your grandmother?" Liam shook his head. "There's no one else, just me." Dr. Harris sighed softly. "I will have the social worker speak with you about options. But we will need an answer soon." He stood up. "I'm very sorry, Liam. I'll check back in a little later." Then Dr. Harris walked down the hall, leaving Liam alone again. The humming machines, the footsteps, and the voices felt distant. Time felt like it was running out, and he didn't know what to do. He only knew one thing: he could not let his grandmother die. The next morning, the temperature in the city dropped even lower. Snow still covered the streets, and the sidewalks were uneven with frozen footprints from the night before. People wore thick jackets, scarves, and gloves, and moved quickly to get out of the cold. The roads near the hospital were quieter than usual because the storm had continued overnight, leaving behind ice patches that made driving difficult. Inside the small hospital cafeteria, Liam sat at a table near the window. His wheelchair was pulled close to the table so he could reach it with his left hand. His right arm remained pressed to his chest in the sling. The cafeteria lights were soft, but the room felt empty. Only a few people sat nearby, either drinking coffee or eating breakfast quietly. A nurse had brought Liam downstairs so he could eat something, but he wasn't hungry. The nurse had placed a small tray in front of him, a bowl of oatmeal, a carton of milk, and an orange. Liam didn't touch any of it. He sat with his left hand in his lap, staring at the steam rising from the oatmeal. His thoughts were only on his grandmother. He didn't know if she was awake, or if she was in more pain, or if she was scared. The idea that she might not survive made his stomach twist. Every few minutes he looked at the door, hoping Dr. Harris or Nurse Kelly would appear with good news. A few moments later, a woman walked into the cafeteria holding a clipboard. She looked around until her eyes landed on Liam. She walked toward him with a calm, steady pace. The woman was in her mid-40s. She had short brown hair cut neatly to her jawline, glasses with black frames, and a warm but serious expression. Her clothes were simple: dark pants, a light blue blouse, and a hospital badge clipped to her collar that said Elaine Carter, social worker. Her posture was straight, and she moved with the confidence of someone who often spoke with families about difficult subjects. "Hi, Liam," she said with a gentle smile. "I'm Ms. Carter. I'm one of the hospital social workers. May I sit with you?" Liam nodded quietly. She sat down across from him and placed her clipboard on the table. Her eyes softened as she looked at him more closely. "I know this is a very hard time for you," she said. "I'm here to help you understand what options we have." Liam swallowed. "Is Gran worse?" "No," Ms. Carter said quickly. "She is stable right now. The doctors are still watching her closely." Liam let out a small breath. "Dr. Harris said she might not live if we don't pay," he murmured. Ms. Carter nodded slowly. "He's right. She needs specialized treatment, and that treatment requires payment. But that's why I'm here. I want to see if we can find a way to help." Liam looked hopeful for one second, but then doubt returned. "We don't have any money," he said quietly. "She works a lot, but we barely pay rent." Ms. Carter looked at him with sympathy. "I understand. I want to talk with you about possible aid programs, charity funds, or payment plans." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "But even with those options," she continued, "we would still need some payment soon. These programs take time to apply for, and your grandmother needs help today." The hope inside Liam disappeared again. He stared at the table, unsure what to say. Ms. Carter watched him for a moment before asking softly, "Liam, do you have any family members at all? Anyone who could help?" He shook his head. "No, it's just us." She nodded. "I'm sorry. That must be very hard." They sat quietly for a few moments. The cafeteria buzzed faintly with the sound of a coffee machine turning on, followed by footsteps from someone walking past their table. Ms. Carter looked down at her clipboard. "Liam, I'm going to be honest with you. The amount the hospital needs is not small. Even adults with full-time jobs struggle to pay it. You're very brave for taking care of your grandmother, but this is a big responsibility for someone your age." Liam's voice cracked a little. "I don't know what to do. I can't let her die." Ms. Carter reached out and placed her hand gently on the table, near his. "I know you're scared, but you're not alone. We're going to do everything we can." Her voice was calm, steady, and reassuring, but Liam could tell there was no simple solution. After a moment, Liam asked, "Can I see her?" "Yes," she said with a nod. "I'll take you to her." Before they left, she added, "After you see her, I want you to tell me if there is anything at all, that you think could help. Sometimes families have resources or belongings they didn't think about before." Liam froze. He thought of the old truck sitting in the driveway of their small house, the only thing his parents had left behind besides a few photos and some old clothes. The truck wasn't in perfect condition, but it still ran. His father used to call it "our road buddy," and his mom always insisted they keep it clean. It was the only thing they had of real value. Maybe someone would buy it. The idea planted itself firmly in Liam's mind. He didn't say anything yet, but his heartbeat sped up. There was a chance. A hard, painful chance, but still a chance. Ms. Carter helped him wheel out of the cafeteria. They returned to the elevator and rode to the second floor, where the intensive care unit was located. The hallway there was quieter, and the lights were dimmer. Machines beeped softly in the background. Nurse Kelly stood outside one of the rooms. She recognized Liam immediately and gave him a gentle, tired smile. "Hi, sweetheart. You can go in for a few minutes. She's resting." Liam rolled his wheelchair toward the door. Ms. Carter opened it for him. His grandmother lay on the bed, connected to several tubes and wires. Her breathing was slow and shallow. The room smelled like disinfectant and medicine. Her hand, the one without the IV, lay still on the blanket. "Gran?" Liam said softly. Her eyelids fluttered a little, and she turned her head toward him. When she saw him, her expression softened. "Hey, baby," she whispered, though her voice was weak. Liam moved his wheelchair closer to the bed. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," she said, "but seeing you here makes it better." He bit his lip, trying not to cry. He didn't want her to see how scared he was. A moment passed, then she asked, "Everything okay?" He nodded quickly. "Yeah, I'm okay." But she watched him carefully, as she always did. Even when she was sick, she could tell when he was hiding something. "You look worried," she murmured. "I just want you to get better," he said. She tried to smile, but her face tightened slightly from the effort. "You're a good boy, Liam. Stronger than you think." Liam looked down at his lap. He wished he felt strong. Right now, he felt small and helpless. After a few minutes, Nurse Kelly stepped in. "I'm sorry, Liam. We need to let her rest." Liam nodded, wiped his eyes quickly, and backed his wheelchair away from the bed. Outside the room, Ms. Carter waited for him. "You did well," she said softly. Liam looked up at her. "I think I know something we can sell." Ms. Carter raised her eyebrows gently. "Okay, what is it?" "Our truck," he said. "My parents' truck. It still works. Someone might buy it." Ms. Carter hesitated. "Do you have the title, the paperwork?" "Yes," Liam said. "Gran keeps everything in a drawer in the kitchen." Ms. Carter nodded slowly. "That could help, but someone would need to go with you. You can't travel alone in this weather." Liam looked up at her and said quietly, "I can go. I have to try." Ms. Carter looked concerned but didn't argue yet. "Let me talk with the hospital staff. We'll figure something out, okay?" Liam nodded, but inside he knew something important. If he wanted to save his grandmother, he couldn't wait for adults to find a solution. He had to find it himself, and the truck was the only thing he had a chance to use. The next morning, the storm had eased a little, but the cold outside was still severe. The sky was a pale gray, and thin snowflakes drifted down slowly. The hospital parking lot was coated with ice, and workers had spread salt across the walkways so people would not slip. Cars moved carefully, and the few people walking outside kept their heads low and moved quickly to escape the cold wind. Inside the hospital, Liam sat in the same waiting area as before. His blanket was draped across his legs, and his left hand rested on top of it. His right arm remained in the cast and sling, pressed against his chest. He looked tired. He hadn't slept much through the night. The chairs in the waiting area were uncomfortable, and every sound from the machines down the hallway made his stomach tighten. Nurse Kelly walked past occasionally, giving him small smiles. She looked the same as before, dark hair tied back, calm expression. But the dark circles under her eyes showed that she had worked through most of the night. Around mid-morning, Ms. Carter appeared again, her coat pulled tightly around her as she approached. She must have just come inside from the cold, because her glasses were slightly fogged. She pushed them up gently, then gave Liam a warm but serious look. "Hi, Liam," she said, kneeling slightly so she could see his face. "How are you holding up?" "I'm okay," he said quietly, though he didn't look okay. Ms. Carter sat in the chair next to him. "I spoke with some of the staff and checked a few of the hospital programs," she began. "There are some forms we can fill out, but even if we submit them today, they won't be processed in time. Your grandmother needs treatment very soon." Liam nodded. He had expected that answer. Ms. Carter took a breath. "You said yesterday that you might have something to sell. The truck, right?" "Yes," Liam said. "It's still in the driveway at home. It runs." "Do you know how much it might be worth?" she asked gently. "I'm not sure," he answered. "But someone would buy it. It's old, but it's not broken." Ms. Carter thought about it. "Selling a vehicle can take time. You need to find a buyer, sign papers, transfer the title. It's not something that happens instantly." Liam tensed. "But I have to try." "I understand," she said softly. "But you can't go alone. It's too cold. And the roads are icy." Liam looked around the waiting room. "Who can go with me? Everyone here is busy." Ms. Carter hesitated. "I'll see if a staff member can escort you, but most of our team must stay in the hospital." Liam lowered his eyes. He felt helpless again. Waiting for adults to make decisions felt slow and painful, especially when every minute mattered. At that moment, footsteps echoed down the hall. Ms. Carter turned her head, and Nurse Kelly approached. She held a small paper cup of hot tea and handed it to Liam. "Here you go, sweetheart. Careful." "It's warm." "Thank you," Liam said. Nurse Kelly then turned to Ms. Carter. "Dr. Harris would like to speak with you both," she said. "He's in his office." They nodded and followed her down the hallway. Ms. Carter walked beside Liam, pushing his wheelchair slowly. Nurse Kelly walked ahead, leading them past several patient rooms and toward a quieter part of the hospital. They reached a small office with a wooden door. Nurse Kelly knocked, and a familiar voice answered, "Come in." Inside, Dr. Harris sat behind a desk covered in folders and papers. His white coat looked slightly wrinkled, and his eyes showed signs of fatigue, but he offered them a polite nod. "Good morning," he said. "Please come in. Liam, how are you?" "I'm okay," Liam replied. Dr. Harris gestured for Ms. Carter to close the door. "I wanted to update you," he said. "Your grandmother had a stable night, but she's still very sick. We need to start the advanced treatment soon." Without it, her condition will worsen. Liam swallowed. I know. I've spoken with the billing department, Dr. Harris continued. There are no new programs that can speed up the payment requirement. Ms. Carter added softly. We may have to rely on anything Liam can sell. He mentioned a truck. Dr. Harris raised an eyebrow. Do you know what the truck is worth? Not yet, Ms. Carter said. We haven't assessed it. Dr. Harris leaned back in his chair, looking thoughtful. Then he looked at Liam. We need to find a solution soon. Is there anything else at home that could help? No, Liam said quietly. Just the truck. The room fell silent for a moment. Finally, Ms. Carter said, we could contact a towing company or a dealership that buys used vehicles. Sometimes they can give quick cash. That could work, Dr. Harris said, but we need someone to take Liam home. He can't be out in this weather alone. I'll figure it out, Ms. Carter assured him. After the meeting, Liam felt a little more hopeful, but only a little. Selling the truck still seemed like his only option. Ms. Carter walked him back to the waiting area. She leaned forward and said softly, I will start calling places. You stay here. Eat something. I'll come back with information. Liam nodded, but as soon as she walked away, a thought began to grow in his mind. It pushed at him gently at first, then strongly. What if no one could help him in time? What if the hospital paperwork took too long? What if the buyer didn't come? His grandmother didn't have much time left. Every hour mattered. He couldn't just sit and wait. He looked down at his wheelchair and tightened his grip on the armrest. He remembered something important. The truck keys were in the kitchen drawer at home, just like his grandmother always said, and home was not that far. Maybe a half-hour roll in good weather, longer in snow, but still reachable. Liam took a beat. Slow, deep breath. He made up his mind. He would go himself, even if it was cold, even if it was dangerous, even if no one helped him. He had to try. He waited a moment, watching the hallway. Nurses and doctors walked back and forth, all busy with patients. No one was looking at him. He adjusted the blanket, straightened his coat, and carefully pushed the wheelchair toward the exit. His left arm trembled from the effort, but he kept going. As he passed the nurse's station, Nurse Kelly was talking to another nurse and didn't notice him. Liam kept his head down, hoping no one would stop him. His heart was beating fast, and his throat felt tight. When he reached the elevator, he pressed the button and waited. The doors opened with a soft chime, and he rolled inside. The elevator ride felt long, even though it only lasted a few seconds. When the doors opened on the ground floor, Liam looked around. People were walking in and out of the hospital. The automatic doors slid open, letting in a blast of cold air. Liam hesitated. His stomach tightened again. He glanced back at the hallway. He could return. He could wait like Ms. Carter said. He could hope someone else would solve the problem. But he remembered Dr. Harris's words. If we don't start the treatment soon, she may not make it. His grandmother had always taken care of him. Now it was his turn. He rolled forward, crossing the lobby. The wheels of his chair squeaked slightly against the polished floor. As he reached the sliding glass doors, the cold air hit his face. His cheeks stung immediately, and the wind pushed lightly against him. But he didn't stop. He pushed forward, rolling out into the cold winter morning. He had one goal: reach home, get the truck keys, and find someone to buy the truck, fast. It was the only plan he had, and he was determined to follow it. The cold outside hit Liam harder than he expected. The moment he rolled through the hospital doors, the freezing air stung his cheeks and made his eyes water. His breath turned into white puffs in front of him. The sidewalk leading away from the hospital was covered in uneven patches of snow, some soft and some frozen into hard ice. Liam tightened the blanket over his legs and looked down to the long road he needed to follow. He pushed his wheelchair forward with his left hand. The wheels moved slowly at first, sinking slightly into the snow. His right arm stayed pressed against his chest inside the sling. Every bump in the sidewalk made his injured arm ache, but he tried to ignore it. A few people passed by the hospital entrance. A woman in a heavy purple coat glanced at him, eyebrows raised, but she didn't stop. A man pulling a grocery cart walked quickly past without looking at him. Everyone seemed focused on getting inside somewhere warm. Liam kept moving. The first stretch of sidewalk was difficult but manageable. He focused on pushing evenly, one small movement at a time. The cold wind blew directly into his face and the tips of his ears felt numb. His hair, messy and uncombed from the night before, stuck to his forehead as snowflakes landed on it. His left hand grew red from the cold, but he kept pushing. The hospital grew smaller behind him. After about 10 minutes, Liam reached a small intersection near a row of older houses. Most of them had snow piled up on their steps and roofs. A few had lights on inside, glowing faintly through the windows. There were no cars moving on the cross street. It was too early and too cold for many people to be out. Liam had to cross the street to continue toward his neighborhood. He waited, looking both ways, even though there were no cars. The wheelchair wheels bumped slightly as he moved off the sidewalk and onto the icy road. The surface was uneven, and the cold air made his chest feel tight. Halfway across, the right wheel got stuck in a small patch of frozen slush. Liam tried to push it out, but the wheel didn't move. He leaned forward, grabbing the rim of the wheel with his left hand, trying again. His muscles strained, and his casted arm throbbed from the motion of his body. Finally, with a small jerk, the wheelchair moved free. He made it to the other side and took a moment to catch his breath. The road to home was still long. Liam kept going. He passed the small community library with posters taped to the windows. He passed a bakery that wasn't open yet, its sign covered in frost. The streets were quiet, except for the wind blowing loose snow across the ground. Every push of the wheelchair made his left wrist ache, but he didn't stop. After nearly half an hour, Liam reached a block he recognized. A row of small houses lined both sides of the street. They were older homes with narrow yards, some with fences, others without. The sidewalks here were covered in more snow, because not many people had come outside to shovel yet. Liam's house was the fifth on the left, a small, pale yellow house with a short driveway. The driveway had a thin, uneven layer of snow covering everything, including the old pickup truck that belonged to his parents. The truck was blue, though the color had faded over the years. The metal edges showed signs of rust, and the windows were frosted over. Seeing the truck made Liam's chest tighten. It reminded him of his parents, their voices, their laughter, and the times they drove him to school or the park. But he pushed those thoughts aside. Right now, the truck was the only thing that could help his grandmother. He rolled up to the front steps. The stairs had 3 steps, each covered in snow. He couldn't climb them. Instead, he used the small ramp that his grandmother's neighbor had built months ago when Liam came home after the accident. The ramp was slightly icy, but manageable. Inside the house, the air felt cold. Liam had forgotten they turned off the heater when they left in the ambulance. He pushed his wheelchair toward the kitchen, his wheels squeaking on the wooden floor. He stopped in front of the old kitchen drawer. It was the one his grandmother used to store important papers, vehicle titles, envelopes, receipts. Liam reached up with his left hand, pulled the drawer open, and searched inside. It took a few minutes, but he finally found a small manila envelope labeled truck title. Inside it were the papers for the truck and the keys attached to a metal keychain shaped like a small wrench. The keychain was scratched and old, but still sturdy. Liam closed the envelope, held the keys in his hand, and took a deep breath. Now he needed to find someone who might buy the truck, but he didn't know any car dealers personally. He didn't have a phone with him either. He had left it in his coat pocket at the hospital. He looked at the window. Down the street, about 3 blocks away, there was a gas station. Next to it was a small convenience store. Cars occasionally stopped there, and sometimes people gathered outside. Maybe he could find someone willing to listen. He put the envelope inside his coat, tucked the keys into his pocket, and turned the wheelchair toward the door again. As Liam rolled back outside, the cold hit him sharply, but he didn't stop. He turned toward the direction of the gas station and started pushing himself forward again. His left hand burned from the cold, and the wheels of the chair made cracking sounds as they moved through the snow. His breath came out in short bursts. Cars passed occasionally, but no one paid attention to a small boy moving slowly in a wheelchair along the sidewalk. After several minutes, he reached the corner near the gas station. The large sign outside displayed gas prices, and the ground there was wet from melting snow. A few cars were parked beside the pumps. A tall metal light post stood near the entrance of the gas station, buzzing, faintly. Next to it was the convenience store, its bright red open sign glowing in the window. Liam pushed himself closer. He reached the edge of the gas station lot and looked around, hoping to find someone who might talk to him. That's when he heard it. A deep, loud engine sound echoed from down the street, not the sound of a car, but something stronger. The sound grew louder, closer, until a motorcycle turned into the gas station. The motorcycle was large and black, with chrome parts that reflected the cold light of the morning. Its wheels crunched lightly over the snow as it slowed down. The rider was a tall man wearing a thick black leather jacket, dark jeans, heavy boots, and black gloves. His shoulders were broad, and his posture strong. His beard was full and dark, with a few streaks of gray. His long hair was tied back into a low ponytail. A tattoo of an eagle covered his neck and disappeared into his jacket collar. Beside him, running excitedly, was a golden retriever. The dog's fur was light gold, and snow clung to its paws. Its tail wagged as it moved around the motorcycle happily. The dog wore a simple red collar, and its tongue hung out as it panted. The man parked his motorcycle next to one of the pumps and turned off the engine. The sudden quiet felt strange after the loud sound of the bike. The man stepped off the motorcycle, adjusted his jacket, and gave the dog a gentle pat on the head. He looked tough, maybe even scary at first glance, but there was something calm and controlled about the way he moved. This was the first time Liam saw Bear, though he didn't know his name yet. Bear looked around the station casually at first. Then his eyes landed on Liam, small, alone, sitting in a wheelchair in the freezing cold. Bear's expression changed immediately. His brows drew together, and he walked toward Liam with steady steps. The dog followed close behind him, sniffing the air curiously. Bear stopped a few feet away. His voice was low, but clear. "Hey kid," he said. "What are you doing out here alone in this weather?" Liam froze. He hadn't expected to be noticed so quickly. He hadn't expected help. But now, he was face to face with someone who looked strong enough, experienced enough, and serious enough to change everything. He just didn't know it yet. Liam felt his heartbeat speed up as the tall man approached him. The cold wind blew across the gas station, but Bear didn't seem bothered by it. His heavy boots left clear marks in the thin layer of snow as he walked. The golden retriever trotted beside him, tail wagging slowly, sniffing at Liam's wheelchair and the blanket over his legs. Bear stopped a few steps away, crouching down slightly so he was closer to Liam's eye level. Up close, Bear looked even larger. His leather jacket was thick, scratched in some places, as if he had worn it for years. His beard covered most of his jaw, and his eyes were sharp but not unkind. He spoke in a calm, steady voice. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Liam swallowed. His lips were dry from the cold. I'm fine." Bear raised an eyebrow. "Fine? You're sitting out here in freezing weather. You look tired, and you're in a wheelchair." He nodded toward Liam's cast. "Plus, your arms hurt." Liam lowered his gaze. He didn't know what to say. He hadn't prepared for this. He had come to find someone who might buy the truck, but now he wasn't sure this man would take him seriously. The golden retriever sat down next to Bear, looking at Liam with gentle brown eyes. The dog leaned forward and sniffed Liam's hand. "That's sunny," Bear said. He likes kids. Liam nodded faintly but didn't move. Bear watched him for a moment, trying to understand the situation. Where are your parents? He asked. Liam froze. His fingers tightened around the armrest of the wheelchair. They're gone, he said quietly. They died. Last year. Bear's expression changed instantly. The hardness in his face softened. I'm sorry to hear that. Liam nodded again. Bear looked around the gas station, then back at Liam. Does anyone know you're out here? It's too cold for you to be alone? Liam hesitated. He didn't want this stranger to take him back to the hospital before he could do anything. No, he admitted. I left the hospital. Bear straightened slightly. You left? Why? Liam felt his throat tighten. I need money. My grandmother is dying and the hospital won't treat her unless we pay. Bear blinked. His expression shifted from surprise to concern. Where is she now? In the ICU, Liam said. They said she might not make it through tonight if we don't pay. Bear let out a slow breath. He looked at Liam more carefully now, as if piecing together the situation. The boy's red cheeks, the trembling left hand, the cast, the wheelchair. It all painted a picture of someone who shouldn't be outside alone in winter. What are you doing out here, Liam? Bear asked gently. Liam looked up in surprise. How do you know my name? You have a hospital bracelet, Bear said, nodding toward Liam's wrist. I can read. Liam glanced at the bracelet but didn't respond. Bear tried again. Why are you here? What's your plan? Liam looked down at his coat. He reached into the inner pocket with his left hand and pulled out the small envelope containing the truck title. He held it tightly. I'm going to sell my parents' truck, he said. It's the only thing we have left that's worth money. If I sell it, I can pay for my grandmother's treatment. Bear stared at the envelope, then at the determination in Liam's eyes. How were you going to sell it? I don't know yet, Liam admitted. I was hoping someone here would listen to me. Bear rubbed his forehead. This was not something he expected to deal with when he stopped for gas. He crouched down again, eye level with Liam, and spoke slowly. You're telling me you pushed your wheelchair through the snow, alone, with a broken arm, to try and sell a truck? Liam nodded. Bear shook his head slightly, not in anger but disbelief. That's a lot for a kid to handle. I don't have a choice, Liam said. His voice cracked. She's all I have left. Sonny whined softly and nudged Liam's knee, sensing his distress. Bear's expression softened even more. He placed one large hand gently on Liam's shoulder. His hand was warm despite the cold. Hey, you did good getting this far, but you're not doing this alone anymore, okay? Liam blinked. What do you mean? I mean, Bear said, standing up. We're going inside the convenience store. You're freezing and you need something warm to drink. Liam hesitated. I don't want to waste time. You won't, Bear replied firmly. You can't make big decisions when you're freezing. Let's get inside first. Bear walked behind the wheelchair, gripping its handles carefully. Mind if I push you? Liam hesitated, then nodded. Bear began pushing the wheelchair toward the store. Sonny followed close behind, wagging his tail, and occasionally looking up at Liam. The convenience store doors slid open automatically. A wave of warm air rushed out, hitting Liam's face and making his eyes sting from the sudden temperature change. Inside, the store smelled like coffee, bread, and winter jackets drying. A heater near the counter hummed loudly. The cashier, a young man with short blonde hair and a red flannel shirt, looked up from the register. His name tag said Derek. He looked surprised when Bear walked in with a child in a wheelchair. Morning, he said cautiously. Morning, Bear replied. Can you point me to the hot drinks? Right side near the back, Derek said. Bear pushed Liam toward the drink station. Several large metal dispensers held different beverages, coffee, tea, and hot chocolate. Bear filled a cup with warm milk from a machine labeled Hot Milk, for cocoa or coffee. He handed the cup to Liam carefully. Drink slow, it's hot. Liam held the warm cup with both hands, careful not to bump his cast. The heat felt good against his fingers. He took a small sip. It was warm, creamy, and comforting. His shoulders relaxed. Bear crouched down again. Better? Liam nodded. Thank you. Bear looked serious now. Okay, Liam. Now tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Liam took a deep breath and explained. He told Bear about his grandmother's collapse, the hospital bills, the doctor saying she might not survive, and how he came home alone to get the truck papers. He told him about pushing himself through snow with only one working arm. Bear listened closely, his eyebrows lowered, jaw tight. He didn't interrupt. Sonny lay down beside Liam, resting his head near the wheelchair wheel, as if guarding him. When Liam finished speaking, Bear asked, Do you have the truck keys with you? Liam nodded and showed him the metal key with the small wrench-shaped keychain. Bear stared at it for a long moment. Something changed in his eyes, recognition, surprise, then something deeper, but he said nothing yet. Instead, he asked, Your parents owned that truck? It was theirs, Liam said. It's all we have left. Bear stood up, took a slow breath, and said, Okay, here's what's going to happen. First, I'm taking you back to your house. We'll look at the truck, then we'll figure out what to do next. Liam blinked. You're helping me? Yeah, Bear said simply. You shouldn't be doing any of this alone. But why? Liam asked. Bear looked down at him, eyes steady. Because sometimes people show up when you need them most. And right now that person is me. Sonny barked once, as if agreeing. Bear pushed Liam's wheelchair out of the convenience store, keeping one hand firmly on the handles while the other held the store door open. The cold air hit them immediately, but it felt slightly easier now that Liam had something warm in his stomach. Sonny trotted beside them, leaving small paw prints in the snow. Your house is that way, right? Bear asked, nodding toward the street. Yes, Liam answered. It's about 3 blocks. Good, Bear said. I'll push you. You tell me if you get too cold. Liam nodded, and they started down the sidewalk. Bear pushed steadily, strong enough to make the movement smooth, but careful not to jolt Liam's cast. Sonny stayed close, occasionally sniffing at bushes or lampposts, but always returning to Liam's side. They passed several houses. Snow covered the yards, and icicles hung from roof edges. A few people were scraping ice off their windshields or shoveling their steps, but most were indoors. The morning was quiet, except for the crunching of their footsteps and the squeak of the wheelchair wheels. After a few minutes, Bear asked, "How long have you lived with your grandmother?" "Since the accident," Liam said. "1.5 years." Bear nodded. "And your parents? They passed in that accident?" "Yes," Liam said softly. Bear didn't push further. He could hear the strain in the boy's voice. They reached Liam's street and moved toward the small yellow house. Bear looked around the neighborhood, taking in the simple homes, some decorated with old holiday lights that had never been taken down. "That your place?" Bear asked when they reached the driveway. Liam nodded. Bear pushed the wheelchair up the small ramp to the porch. Sonny sniffed the snow-covered steps, tail wagging. "Okay," Bear said once they reached the porch. "Let's take a look at that truck." Liam pointed toward the driveway where the faded blue pickup sat under a thin layer of snow. Bear walked toward it, brushing snow off the window with his gloved hand. He stepped back to look at the body. "It's old," Bear said, "but it looks solid. Might still run well." "It does," Liam said. "Gran started it last week, and it worked fine." Bear nodded and walked around to the other side. He checked the tires, the condition of the paint, and the rust around the wheel wells. "Keys?" Bear asked, holding out his hand. Liam pulled the key from his coat pocket and placed it in Bear's palm. The key hung from a small metal keychain shaped like a wrench. It was scratched and old, but sturdy. Bear turned the key over between his fingers. Then he stopped moving. His expression changed slowly, shifting from focused to confused, then to something deeper, something heavy. He held the keychain closer to his face. There were faint initials carved into the metal, JM plus LM. Bear's breathing slowed, his eyes narrowed, and he looked at Liam, really looked at him. "Where did you get this keychain?" Bear asked, his voice lower. "It was my dad's," Liam said. "He kept it on the truck key." Bear's jaw tightened. He stared at the key again, rubbing a thumb over the initials. He knew this keychain. He knew it because he had seen it before, years ago, on a night he would never forget. He cleared his throat. "Your dad? What was his name?" "Jason Miller," Liam answered. Bear froze. The wind blew lightly across the driveway, but neither of them moved. Bear's voice came out rough, almost strained. "And your mom?" "Laura Miller," Liam said. "Why?" Bear closed his eyes for a second, then opened them. They looked different now, more intense, filled with something between shock and disbelief. "I know them," Bear said quietly. Liam blinked. "What?" Bear took a slow breath. "Kid, your parents saved my life." Liam stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Bear leaned against the side of the truck. His posture was steady, but his hands shook slightly. "It was 3 years ago," Bear began. "I was riding my bike on a highway outside the city. A truck swerved into my lane. I lost control and crashed." He touched his left shoulder, as if the memory still hurt. "I hit the ground hard. I couldn't move. I thought I was going to die right there." Liam listened closely, eyes wide. Bear continued. "Your parents were driving home from somewhere. They saw me on the side of the road. They stopped. Your dad called for help while your mom stayed with me. She held a towel to my head to stop the bleeding. And your dad kept talking to me, telling me to stay awake." Liam's eyes softened. "They stayed until the ambulance came," Bear said, staring at the ground. "The paramedics told me later that if your parents hadn't stopped, I probably wouldn't have made it. Traffic was slow that night. No one else saw me." He swallowed hard. "And before they left, your dad gave me this." Bear held up the keychain. He said it was his spare keychain from work. Something about never leaving someone stuck on the side of the road. He told me I could return it someday, but I never got the chance. Liam stared at the metal keychain in Bear's hand. His chest felt tight, but not from fear this time, from something else. "So, you knew them?" Liam whispered. Bear nodded. "I only met them once, but I remembered them. I remembered their faces, their voices. Your dad kept cracking jokes to keep me awake. Your mom said everything would be okay, even though I knew she was scared." He let out a long breath. "When I found out later that someone with their names died in a crash, I didn't know it was them. I hoped it wasn't. I didn't know they had a kid." Liam's eyes watered, but he blinked quickly to stop tears. Bear crouched in front of Liam again, his voice steady but emotional. "Liam, your parents saved my life. I'm standing here because of them." Sonny walked up to Liam and pressed his head against the boy's knee, sensing the rising emotion. "And now," Bear said, "their son is out here alone in the cold, trying to save his grandmother by selling the truck they left behind." He shook his head slowly, almost angrily, but not at Liam. "At 10 years old, you're doing more than most adults would even try, but you don't have to do this alone." Liam looked confused. "What do you mean?" Bear placed a strong hand on the wheelchair handle. "I'm going to help you," he said firmly. "Not because I feel sorry for you, not because it's the right thing to do, but because your parents saved my life, and I will not stand by while their son struggles alone." Liam's lip trembled. "But the hospital needs money now. I don't think the truck will—" "I'm not talking about the truck," Bear interrupted gently. Liam blinked. "Then what?" Bear looked straight at him. I'm going to pay for it. Liam's breath caught. What? I have savings, Bear said. I have work. I don't spend much money. I can cover the cost. All of it. Liam shook his head. No, I can't let you. It's too much. Bear placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. Listen to me. Your parents didn't leave me on the road because they were worried about money. They helped me because someone needed help. And now their kid needs help. I'm not letting anything happen to your grandmother. Liam looked down, overwhelmed. Bear's voice softened. You're not alone anymore, Liam. I'm here. Sonny's here. We're going to the hospital now, and we're going to save your grandmother. Sonny barked once, loudly, as if confirming the plan. For the first time since the hospital asked for money, Liam felt something lift inside him. Hope. Bear lifted the wheelchair handles and turned Liam toward the street without wasting time. The cold wind had picked up again, and snowflakes hit their faces as they moved away from the house. Sonny trotted close beside them, staying alert. Let's go, Bear said. Your grandmother needs help now. Liam held the envelope tight against his chest. Are you sure we can make it in time? We will, Bear answered firmly. I promise. They started down the sidewalk faster this time. Bear's long strides cut the distance quickly, while he pushed the wheelchair with controlled strength. He made sure the wheels didn't slide on icy patches. Liam held the blanket close around his legs, shivering every time the wind blew harder. After a few minutes, Bear noticed Liam rubbing his cast gently, his face pinched in pain. Is your arm hurting more? Bear asked. A little, Liam admitted. When it gets too cold, it feels worse. Then we need to warm it up, Bear said. Hold on. He stopped for a moment and unwrapped the end of the blanket, tucking it around Liam's cast and sling more tightly. Then he zipped up Liam's coat to the top. That should help until we get inside the hospital, Bear said. Liam nodded gratefully. They continued moving. The hospital came into view, tall and bright against the snowy sky. Cars were slowly pulling up to the entrance, and nurses in heavy jackets were helping patients inside. As they approached the main door, a security guard noticed Liam and Bear and held the door open for them. Cold day for a kid to be out, the guard said with concern. He's with me, Bear replied quickly. Emergency situation. Inside, the hospital warmth made Liam sigh with relief. His cheeks tingled as the feeling slowly returned. Bear pushed him toward the front desk. The woman at the information counter looked up. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and a pair of reading glasses hanging from a thin chain around her neck. Her badge said Marilyn, Information Desk. Can I help you? She asked. Yes, Bear said. This boy's grandmother is in the ICU. We need to speak with Billing and his doctor right away. Marilyn typed something into her computer, eyes scanning the screen. Name? Margaret Miller, Liam said. She nodded. Yes, I see her file. The doctor should be available soon. Billing is down the hall, third door on the left. We're going there now, Bear said, already turning the wheelchair. As they moved toward the office, Nurse Kelly spotted them from across the hall. Her eyes widened. Liam, where did you go? We were looking everywhere for you. I'm sorry, Liam said quickly. I had to get something important. Nurse Kelly looked upset but relieved. Then her eyes moved to Bear. And you are? Bear, he said simply. I'm helping him. Something in his tone made Nurse Kelly pause. She nodded slowly. All right. His grandmother's condition is still critical. Dr. Harris will want to talk to you both. We'll see him soon, Bear said. First, the payment. Nurse Kelly blinked in surprise but didn't question him. She stepped aside, letting them pass. They reached the billing office. A sign on the door read, Financial Services. Inside sat a woman in her early 40s with dark hair, wearing a maroon sweater. Papers were stacked neatly around her computer. Her badge said, Evelyn, Billing Specialist. Hello, she said politely. How can I help you? Bear stepped forward. This boy's grandmother needs treatment in the ICU immediately. I'm covering the costs. Evelyn straightened in her chair, surprised. You're covering the full amount? Yes, Bear said. All of it. She looked between him and Liam, then quickly began typing. I'll need some information. Do you know her date of birth? Liam answered. Evelyn continued with several more questions. Address, insurance provider, emergency contact. She updated the records quickly and printed a form. Finally, she turned to Bear. The deposit required for emergency ICU treatment is here. She slid the paper across the desk. Bear didn't flinch. He pulled out his wallet, took out 2 credit cards, and placed them on the desk. Run the total, he said. If one card doesn't cover it, use the other. Evelyn processed the payment. The computer beeped as each card was approved. When the final document printed, she looked at Bear with genuine relief. It's cleared. The hospital will begin the full treatment immediately. Thank you, sir. You likely saved her life. Bear gave a short nod. Just doing what I need to do? Liam stared at him, stunned. He hadn't fully believed it until now. You really paid for it? Bear looked down at him. I told you I would. Before Liam could say more, Nurse Kelly hurried toward them. Dr. Harris is ready to speak with you, she said. He wants to update you both. Bear followed her while pushing Liam's wheelchair. They walked through the hallway into a small meeting room near the ICU. Dr. Harris entered a moment later, still wearing his white coat. He closed the door behind him. Liam, he said with relief in his voice. We were very worried when we couldn't find you. I'm sorry, Liam said again. I had to help my grandmother. Dr. Harris nodded, then turned to Bear. You must be the one who brought him back. Yeah, Bear said, and I paid the deposit. The ICU can start treatment now. Dr. Harris blinked, surprised. That is good news. Very good news. Margaret needed this treatment as soon as possible. Is she going to be okay? Liam asked quickly. Dr. Harris pulled out a tablet showing medical notes. We can't promise anything yet, but now that the treatment is authorized, we can use stronger medication and closer monitoring. Her chances are much better than before. Liam felt a wave of relief wash through him. Dr. Harris continued. You made the right choice coming back. She's stable enough for now, but she was getting worse quickly. Bear placed a gentle hand on the wheelchair handle. What happens next? She'll stay in the ICU for at least a few days, Dr. Harris explained. We'll monitor her heart and lungs. If she responds well to the new treatment, she may recover. It will take time. Liam nodded. Can I see her? Yes, Dr. Harris said. But only for a few minutes. She's resting, and she'll be very weak. He opened the door and led them toward the ICU. Bear stayed close behind Liam. Sonny waited outside the ward, lying down at the door obediently. Inside the dim room, Margaret lay connected to several monitors. Her breathing looked steadier than before. Her eyes were closed, but she no longer looked like she was struggling for every breath. Liam moved closer, his voice soft. Gran, I'm here. Her eyelids moved slightly, and she opened her eyes halfway. When she saw Liam, she smiled weakly. Sweetheart, you're back, she whispered. Where did you go? Liam took a shaky breath. To get help. Margaret looked at Bear, confused. And you are? Bear stepped forward respectfully. Someone your family helped long ago. Now I'm returning the favor. Margaret looked at him for a long moment. Her tired eyes softened with understanding. Thank you, she whispered. You just focus on getting better, Bear said. Liam squeezed her hand gently. You're going to be okay now, I promise. Her eyes closed again as she drifted back to sleep. Dr. Harris stepped forward. She needs rest. Let's let her sleep. Bear nodded, and they quietly left the room. Sonny stood up and walked beside them as they exited the ICU. Outside in the quiet hallway, Bear turned to Liam. From now on, Bear said, voice steady and serious, you're not facing anything alone. Not anymore. Liam looked up at him, and for the first time since the accident months ago, he truly believed it. The next few days passed slowly but steadily inside the hospital. Snow continued to fall outside, covering the city in thick layers of white. The streets were quiet, and the air remained cold enough that people hurried wherever they went. But inside the ICU, the environment was warm and controlled. Machines hummed, nurses moved calmly, and doctors checked on patients with regular routines. For Liam, each day felt like a mixture of fear and hope. He stayed at the hospital from morning until night, leaving only when the nurses asked him to rest. Bear stayed with him most of the time. When Bear stepped out to make a call or walk Sonny, he always came back. He never left Liam alone for long. Margaret's condition slowly improved. The stronger medication helped her heart work more steadily, and her breathing became less strained. She still needed oxygen and frequent monitoring, but the doctors were pleased with her progress. On the third day, Dr. Harris walked into the waiting area where Liam and Bear were sitting. His steps were relaxed, and he held a tablet in one hand. Liam, he said, your grandmother is responding well to the treatment. Liam sat up straighter. Really? Yes, Dr. Harris said with a small smile. She's still weak, but she's moving in the right direction. If this continues, she could leave the ICU in a few days. Liam let out a slow breath he had been holding. Bear smiled slightly and placed a gentle hand on Liam's shoulder. That's good news, Bear said. It is, Dr. Harris agreed. She still needs rest, but this improvement is significant. You did the right thing bringing her back in time. Liam looked down at his hands, trying not to get emotional. I'm glad she's getting better. Bear nodded. She will. We're here. After Dr. Harris left, Liam turned to Bear. Thank you for everything. Bear shook his head. You don't have to thank me. Your parents saved my life. Helping you is something I should have done earlier if I had known. Liam didn't know what else to say, so he simply nodded. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. Later that afternoon, Nurse Kelly came by and said, Liam, your grandmother is awake. She wants to see you. Liam smiled and rolled his wheelchair down the hallway, with Bear walking behind him. They entered Margaret's room quietly. Margaret lay in the bed with her head propped up by pillows. She looked pale and tired, but her eyes were open and calmer than before. When she saw Liam, she smiled warmly. Come here, sweetheart, she whispered. Liam wheeled himself closer. Bear stayed near the door, giving them space. How do you feel, Gran? Liam asked. Tired, she admitted, but better than before. You're getting stronger, Liam said. Dr. Harris thinks you may leave the ICU soon. Margaret looked relieved. Then her gaze moved to Bear. And you, she said softly. Thank you for helping us. Bear stepped forward slightly. Your son and daughter-in-law saved my life years ago. I owe them everything. Helping you is the least I can do. Margaret's eyes filled with gentle understanding. They were good people, she said. I'm glad someone remembers them. I do, Bear said. And now, I'm here for Liam. Sonny walked into the room and placed his head gently against Liam's leg. The dog's warm presence made the moment feel lighter. Margaret smiled at the sight of him. I like your dog, she told Bear. He's a good one, Bear replied proudly. Keeps everyone calm. Sonny wagged his tail. Margaret reached out her hand weakly. Liam placed his left hand on top of hers. They stayed like that quietly for a moment, before Nurse Kelly returned. She should rest again, the nurse said gently. Liam backed up his wheelchair, and Bear guided him out of the room. Over the next few days, Margaret continued to gain strength. She was moved from the ICU to a regular room. Her oxygen levels improved, and she was able to eat small meals. Liam visited every chance he got. Bear always accompanied him. One morning, when the doctors finished checking Margaret's progress, Ms. Carter, the social worker, approached them. She wore a neat blazer over her blouse, and she carried a tablet with several documents open. "Good morning, Liam," she said. "And Mr. Bear." "Just Bear," he corrected politely. She smiled. "I wanted to talk to you both. First, I'm very glad Margaret is improving. I also wanted to let you know that the hospital has updated your financial file. The deposit and treatment costs have been fully covered." Bear nodded. "Good." Ms. Carter looked at him carefully. "You understand that was a very large amount, right?" "Yes," Bear said, "and I stand by it." Ms. Carter accepted his answer and continued. "I also found a few support programs that can help Margaret once she leaves the hospital. Home visits, meal assistance, and physical therapy options. These will make her recovery easier." Liam looked relieved. "Thank you. We'll make sure she gets the support she needs," Ms. Carter said. After she left, Bear looked at Liam. "When she gets home, you'll both need help getting things back to normal." Liam nodded. "We will. I'll be around," Bear said simply. "You don't have to," Liam replied quietly. Bear crouched down in front of him. "Kid, listen. I'm not helping you because I feel forced to. I'm here because I care. Your parents were good people. You're a good kid, and your grandmother deserves a chance to live a normal life." Liam's throat tightened with emotion. "Thank you," he whispered. Sonny nudged Liam's hand with his nose. Liam scratched behind the dog's ear with his left hand. 3 days later, Margaret was discharged from the hospital. She needed time to regain her strength, but she was stable and breathing normally. Bear drove his truck to the front entrance and helped Liam into the passenger seat. A nurse wheeled Margaret out in a hospital chair. Bear walked over, wrapped her in a thick coat, and helped her into the truck carefully. She moved slowly but steadily. Sonny jumped into the back seat, tail wagging happily. "Everyone ready?" Bear asked. "Yes," Margaret said softly. "Let's go home," Liam said. They drove through the snowy streets, passing familiar houses and shops. When they pulled into the driveway, Bear got out and helped both Margaret and Liam inside. Once everyone was settled, Bear said, "I'll be stopping by every day for a while, to check on you, help with groceries, fix anything in the house that needs fixing, and take Liam to appointments if needed." Margaret looked at him gratefully. "You're very kind." "It's nothing," Bear said. "Family takes care of family." Liam looked surprised. "Family?" Bear nodded. "Maybe not by blood, but your parents treated me like a person worth saving. Now I'm returning the favor." Sonny barked, as if agreeing completely. Margaret wiped a tear from her eye. "Thank you," she whispered again. Bear smiled slightly. "Get some rest. I'll be back tomorrow." As he and Sonny stepped off the porch, Liam watched them go with a warm feeling in his chest. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone. He felt safe. He felt supported. He felt like life might get better from here. In the end, this wasn't just luck. It was a reminder that miracles still exist. Sometimes God doesn't send angels from the sky. He sends ordinary people with extraordinary hearts. Just like Bear appeared for Liam when all hope seemed gone. We all face storms in life, but kindness can change everything. And God is always watching over us. If this story touched you, please share it, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. And may God bless you and your family today and always. Amen.